You're listening to Your Purpose and Business podcast, where we connect you to possibilities. I'm your host, Raquel Walters, a two-time best-selling author, millennial speaker, corporate trainer, advocate, and clinical social worker at heart. Your Purpose and Business podcast will connect you with everyday successful people who will share their impactful stories, insights, challenges, failures, and triumphs on how they're navigating the working world, whether by climbing the 9-to-5 corporate ladder or starting, growing, and scaling their business. So grab your pen and notebook because you'll want to implement the nuggets and tools, strategies shared in every episode. Class is in session. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Your Purpose and Business podcast. My name is Raquel Walters. The lovely Monica Petit. Monica Petit is a vivacious entrepreneur and mentor. She is the host of Petit Steps to Success podcast and the founder of Monica Petit Enterprises. MPE is a minority women-owned consulting company which provides business and life strategic planning and development for women who are ready to stop chasing their dreams and start catching them using the Petit Steps to Success principles. Throughout her proprietary Petit Steps to Success system, she's here to shake up your approach to strategic planning, goal planning, getting things done, and knowing exactly where to start while making it feel stress-free. Her mission is to set in motion her clients' desires to take ownership over the destination of their lives by providing solutions and that will help them obtain independence, gain financial stability, and ultimate freedom. Monica, it's an honor to have you on the Your Purpose and Business podcast.
Hi, Raquel. Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be here.
Oh, you're very welcome. So, Monica, your bio is rich, and I do know that you have a signature system that allows women to pretty much get things done and to level up in their lives. But tell us something about yourself that's not included in the bio for our audience.
Absolutely. So my system came about years ago, probably around 2000, I'd say 14, but really it started to happen in 2008 when I had my son. I was pregnant and getting ready to have him, and about a month or so after I delivered him, I called my employer, who I'd worked for roughly 4 or 5 years. I wanted to find out if it's possible to go part-time, and the response to me was, we're no longer going to need your services. We're actually going to be laying you off. And so, first of all, as a new mom, I was panicked. I didn't know what I was going to do. I decided, I had a business idea in my head, so maybe this is the time to try to go forward with that. And so, with a baby in arm and pen and paper in the other arm, I started writing out ideas after idea, and any information that came from that idea flowed onto that page. And I ended up creating a business plan inadvertently. And so after that, I just put every effort I could into taking care of this newborn, but also growing this newborn business as well. And so I utilized every free resource I could find. I put my profile on every free website I could find. And this was long before Instagram, and I think MySpace was popular at that point. So that gives you a reference to how long ago this was. And so any free resource I could find, I posted my business info on there. And as a result of that, a newspaper, a writer from the Denver Post newspaper called me, and she asked if she could interview me. And she wanted to come to one of my events. And obviously at that time I was just starting, I just had the baby. I was trying to get it out there. And so I came up with an event, and she just interviewed me on the basically over the phone. And what came from that ended up being a full page spread in the Saturday Spotlight section of the newspaper, and then a smaller spread on the third page, and my business boomed from there.
Wow.
And so there was a lesson in that. It taught me, you kind of have to take your destination or your destiny in your own hands, and you have to not rely upon an employer, a man, a job, nothing for the survival of yourself. And that was a lesson that I've carried with me until today. And so The Petit Steps to Success program entails everything I learned throughout that process and also throughout the last almost 10, 11 years of me being in business.
That's amazing, and thank you so much for sharing. I mean, because what some would look at as a step back or a setback, I should say, it actually up levels you into actually what you're supposed to be doing. Which leads me to the question, Monica, do you think that you found your purpose in the world, or you're still journeying on it? And I know it's a huge question, but I love to ask my guests this because I love to hear the different responses.
That is a major question, and I'll be honest with you, Raquel, I was pondering over that for a while. I sat and I meditated over it because I feel like our purpose changes as we evolve and as we grow as people. But I feel like the core of who you are as a person doesn't really change. Your values and your attributes kind of remain consistent no matter what environment you're in. I think sometimes those values and attributes get smushed and shut off depending on what environment you're in. But I think for me, it did awaken me to my purpose. I think it showed me years later that my purpose is to help women that were in that same situation. They were either in relationships that are unhealthy or in work relationships that were unhealthy or ended abruptly, and they're now left with their own devices what to do. And so I feel like over the years I've kind of morphed my business into, it's pivoted a few times, because I've combined some of my passions. Event planning has always been a passion since I was a child. Business development has been a passion for me since I was 14 years old. I actually one of my first jobs was at the Business Assistance Center in downtown Denver at the World Trade Center.
Hmm.
And I was basically telling adults how to start a business when I was 14, 15 years old. And I went through an entire summer of training in order to get this job.
Hmm.
And it was really one of the biggest blessings of my life because it opened my eyes to, oh, there's another way to live. There's another way to help people. And so in 2008 and then 2014, I incorporated events, but also business development and then consulting recently as a way to live out my purpose and helping women get out of situational dependency.
I love that, Monica, because sharing your story just now and how it's beautifully woven into what it is that you're doing at the core. This was what you were meant to do, to help
Right.
women with in a certain capacity, and that is with strategic planning. And
Right.
I don't know, and I'm just gonna ask you this question. Do you believe that, looking back on your years of experiences and where you are now, who were who probably have influenced you into, honing in on really intentionally or strategically planning out what it is that you wanted to do in your life, or did it just happen based on your life experiences, or was it something, and this is like a two-part question, I'm sorry,
Mhm.
or was it something that was you always knew that you wanted to do, but it took you some time to identify how to serve in this world? Does that question make sense?
It does. Um, so I'll start from, childhood. I am bred from a lot of really strong women,
Hmm.
from my grandmother all the way back to her parents, her mom, my great grandma, and then my mother as well. So I watched my mom take care of three kids on her own. I watched her go to work, and then my grandma assisted with my sister and I when we were younger so that my mom could work. And then my oldest sister, I love to death, has always been a major influence over my life. She's just one of the smartest, savviest women I know. And I look to her for guidance and really for instruction over my life as well. And it brings, joy to my heart. I'm getting a little shaken up by that because I love the women in my family. And so I think it was already within me. And I think that that's probably the case for most women. It's already within. It just takes some kind of uncomfortability or some situation to pull it out of you. And I think, women are some of the strongest beings on this planet, not just for, having children, but just the amount of restraint we sometimes have to show in some situations. And also in the strength that we have to carry our families and to be really the rock that holds our family up, but that also propels our families forward. And so I think I had to go through losing my job that way to push me into entrepreneurship and the way that it did. I think I had to go through abusive relationships in order to understand as a woman what my value is and what I will allow and not allow in my life. I think becoming a mom really turned everything around for me. I think it made me realize that unconditional love is possible and that you basically you can mold a little person into a God-fearing, loving person that is reflective really of the mothers in their life. And
Mhm.
so I think there's been a lot of people that have influenced me. And it wasn't until recently that I actually invested in a mentor
Mhm.
because I just couldn't afford it. When you're going through new entrepreneurship and that journey and discovering who you are as a woman and as a person, you look to entrepreneurship or look to mentorship rather, excuse me,
Yeah.
um, in different ways. So I would listen to podcasts. I would talk to family and friends that were almost where I wanted to be or on their way to where I want to be. And then as I've gotten more mature in my entrepreneurial journey, I've been able to hire more mentors. And I think that that's been a huge difference in my journey, especially over the last year.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for walking us through that. And the reason why I asked you that question is because especially for minority men and women and especially our millennial generations now, and don't get me wrong, there's many people pivoting at different ages and at different levels in their life or stages in their life.
Absolutely.
But especially for society now, a lot of millennial and they're thinking that it's a microwave society and that they want things to happen in a minute. It's like you
Hmm.
pop that popcorn in the microwave and in a minute or so, you have that popcorn. But a part of the process of getting to your destination or your desired destination or that destination on your journey of life, because it's
Hmm.
never, the destination doesn't end, right?
Right.
It's just like getting to one destination then moving on to the next. But that it requires life lessons. It
Yeah.
requires that some things is going to happen to you and for you, even when
Hmm.
it is you can't even imagine how can this happen to me. I mean, you
Right.
shared about losing your job, but how that has set you up to become an entrepreneur, and how your life has blossomed so greatly because of that loss. And I'm sure you had
Yes.
loss in other areas of your life as well. So I just wanted for you to share that system, so to speak, or that process that you had to go through, because I know that there's someone listening saying that I want to make changes, or this happened to me, I lost a loved one, I lost a job, I don't have enough money in the bank, but I have this burning desire to start a business, to do something more for myself, or even to start a career, change
Right.
careers, I should say. But these are some of the things that life can throw you, but how do you push through? And I think for you,
Absolutely.
you gave us some recipes there where at the time you didn't have the money, but you were able to you share about what you do, how you help on different free platforms. At the top,
Right.
you said that an editor or reached out to you, and
Right.
you were able to eventually invest in yourself. So,
Hmm.
my lead on or question for you, Monica, how important is um get doing the research, especially when you don't have the money, you want to start the business, and also after that investing in a mentor? How important is that? Speak to the audience. Yeah.
It's very important. So I'm an avid learner. I have been since I was a child, and education has always been very important in my family. We didn't come home with C's, D's, or F's because grandma would grab that switch. So we had very clear understanding about what the level of education, what it needed to be when we returned home from school. And that it's not to say that it was beat into us. I've always been an avid learner, and I get that again from the women in my family, starting with my mother. But I would say some practical ways to really start applying the information you learn is number one of the most important things. So, we all have this resource out there. There's two big resources, the Google and the library. There's free books. And I I'm an avid reader. Like, I stack books. You can't see it here, but I have books stacked in my kitchen. That's how much I love books. And so the important thing though is to, once you learn the knowledge, is to apply it. And so I had to do that back in 2014 when I lost a job again. Um, and I'll tell you quickly, I was in a job where I was doing what I love to do, which is events, but I was running up against people who didn't want change. They wanted things to stay as they were, but yet they wanted to see more growth and more financial gain within their organization, but they weren't willing to bend, and they weren't willing to do the things that were necessary to get there. And so, we bumped heads. And that's happened a lot, I'll be honest, in any job I've had, because I'm a forward thinker. I'm a visionary. I try to come up with ideas to make things better. And some people just aren't on that wavelength.
Mhm.
They want things as they are. And that's true in a job, but it's also true in relationships as well. You have to be growing together in
Right.
order to build anything together. And so, one of the things I learned early on, and it's the foundation of the Petit Steps to Success system, is that you really have to know what you don't want in order to know what you do want.
Mhm.
And within the program, there's a couple of exercises that I have people go through outside of, reading and sitting on the computer. I have you actually go to a bookstore, and you're going to look for your interest, figure out what it is you like and don't like, get back to the core of who you were as a kid, those things that brought light to your eyes. And then from there, we really work on setting goals, but also allowing those goals to be a part of your day, not just something that you see on the wall every now and again. And then mindset was huge. That was a big thing for me. And it still is today. I push myself every day to do affirmations. I push myself every day to look in the mirror and say, I forgive you, or I love you, or what happened to you when you were abused or when you were let go does not define who you are as a person or as a woman. You came through it for a reason. And now what are you going to do with it?
Right.
And so in the system, it's, I push about goals, and I push goal management, and I push mindset, but it's really about the support you get with the women that are in the group, and really knowing that these people have my back. They've been there. Monica's been there. Here's how we can get you there. So it's really about the transformation, but also about walking hand in hand together. Because, I feel like even though I've been through so many things, especially with job losses and, the failures of relationships, I'm still standing. And there's a lot of women that are being boxed into that ideal that I failed, so I can't do anything else. I lost this job. What am I going to do now?
Mhm.
And in 2014, I think it was, I decided I was going to follow another dream, which was to become a flight attendant. That was a childhood dream forever. I
Yeah.
just remember being in the airport, seeing these beautiful women walking through the airport. Where are they going? Why do they get to travel? Like, they look so pretty.
Yes.
And so I left my family for 30 days, left my son with his dad, and I studied and
Mhm.
studied and studied and cried every single day. I missed his birthday. I missed my birthday. And I just said to myself, I have to be the example for him. If I don't follow my dreams, what kind of example am I setting for him? And
Yeah.
so, that process of having community, even for those 30 days away with the women that I went through this process with, some of them were leaving their children as well. Some of
Mhm.
these ladies had been in abusive relationships when they left, come to find out later.
Mhm.
And we formed a community and like stood behind each other. And, in hindsight, they say is 2020. When I look back on just that journey and where I am today, probably couldn't put two pictures next to each other and recognize the same person,
Oh,
because the confidence and the woman I know I am today was not there. That woman back then would not have left.
mhm,
She would have stayed exactly where she was in her comfort zone. She never would have traveled independently. The
mhm.
woman I am today, I get up and leave when I feel like it. Go to Europe on my own. I take my son everywhere he wants to go. Why? Because I can now. And that's what every woman should be able to do. They should have that stability and that freedom and the finances to back them. And the finances I'm still working on, but it's improving. So
Yeah, yeah.
consistency is key.
You said a lot of things there, Monica. I mean, you've lost two jobs, you pivoted so many different times. You started going after your desires, following your heart. For someone listening to you, whether it is that they're going through like a hardship within a relationship, it could be a significant other, it could be with their parents, with a loved one, it could be just feeling stuck where they are currently in life and uncertain on what's the next step. You spoke about growth for yourself. You said if you were to put up a picture of you now versus you then, you can clearly see that growth. Speak to someone that is seeking change. And I don't know why this is on my heart, but I feel like this is important, and I feel like you're a vessel to do so based on your experiences. But speak to that person that is going through something. It could be any of those examples that I just said and what you just said, and they're just feeling stuck and uncertain. What would you say to them? Some encouraging words, or something that would have them think about. Okay, if she was able to do this and get through X, Y, Z, then so can I. Go ahead and just speak from your heart, Monica.
And I feel that that's the question I knew was going to come tonight. And so I'm
Mhm.
glad you asked me that. And I'm going to let source come through me on this because
Yeah.
it's important. Um, so I'm going to gather myself because even though I'm where I'm at,
Mhm.
I can still feel her. Okay. Um, I'm going to call her Melissa.
That's fine. That's fine.
um, Melissa, where you are today is not where God intended for you to be. He has so much more that He has ready for you. The thing is, you have to understand that what you're going through at this very moment, though, is necessary in order to get you across that field or to the next level of where He wants you to be. If I were to look back, Melissa, 15 years, 10 years, even a year ago, there's no way I would sit here and talk about this. I wouldn't have been able to emotionally or intellectually express my feelings to you or my feelings of what you're going through because I was too deep in it as well. Um, Sometimes, though, you have to just be in it in order to get through it, and you have to allow the process of what you're going through to just play its part and pan out the way it does. But there's going to come a point where you're going to say to yourself, or he's going to say to you, and you'll hear it, this is not where I want you. This is not what I made you for. I have so much more for you and for your life. And Melissa has children, so for your children as well. And you are going to get through this. But it's up to you to start to take the steps necessary to get where I need you to be. And I didn't have anyone to say that to me, Raquel.
Yes.
I I hid what I was going through for many years. I just, from the outside looking in, people would say, "Oh, you have everything together. Everything looks perfect." My partner had restaurants and everything looked great. Um, People say to me every day, "Oh, you're such a beautiful woman." I felt ugly inside. I never felt beautiful inside because I was in a situation that made me feel this small. And Melissa, if you're listening, I have your back. I'm behind you. I know what you're going through. I know what you want to get to. And if you are ready, and even if you're not ready, just take the first step, whether that's prayer or meditation or reaching out to me or reaching out to Raquel or your family. It's going to be a necessary step, but you yourself have to decide that you're ready to take ownership of your life. And
Mhm.
that's what I had to decide years ago, and I'm not going back.
Yes, no, she's not going back, guys. She is not going
Not going
back.
back.
And thank you so much, Monica, for sharing that because I know that you have, helped so many people who will be listening to this, get through a phase in their life. And I just call it a phase
Yeah,
because you have to get through phase one to get to phase two to get to phase three, right?
absolutely.
All about growth. And thank you for sharing that. What amazes me about you and what you've shared so far is, how it is that you went about pursuing your multi passions fearlessly. It
Hmm.
looks fearless, but even sometimes with fear. So,
Yeah,
so, so, so if you don't mind, just speak on the importance of living out your multi passions, because society tells us that, oh, you should just have one job and that's or one career and that's what you should do until you retire. That's it, right? And so,
right.
how important is it to be able to express the different parts of yourself and to follow your heart while doing that, even if people around you don't understand?
It's very important. It's very, very important, Raquel, because I feel like if you don't, it basically kills off a part of yourself. It just it's something that you have to make sacrifices, just like anything else in life. If you go to college, that's a sacrifice. If you become a flight attendant, that's a sacrifice. If you become an entrepreneur, it's a sacrifice. But it's all about how willing are you to basically put aside things that aren't as important. And that's something that we talk about a lot in the program and also in my Facebook group. Everyone says, I don't have time. I don't have time. I don't have time. How much time do you really have in the week to focus an hour on your business? Or if your passion is dancing, or whatever your passion is in the moment, you have to find the time if it's important to you. And so for me, I am very task oriented, and so I schedule everything. My
Mm,
family laughs at me sometimes, and my son gets on me because everything is very regimented.
yes,
And that could be the Virgo in me, I don't know. But I like if it's on the schedule, it gets done. There's that old saying, what gets scheduled gets done.
right.
And so I feel like if it's that important to you, then you'll put it on the schedule and you'll commit to doing it.
Mhm.
The other thing I would say is, once you decide, then be consistent with it. So if you are trying to do the business, figure out what tasks are going to move you forward and then get those on the calendar. And then everything else, put it aside until you can get to it. But get those important tasks on the calendar. And typically, it's the income generating things that you need to be working on. If you're an artist, then yeah, you need to sit down and paint. For me, I'm in the process of writing a book, so I need to spend an hour at least writing so that I can
Awesome.
move the handle on that or move the needle on that. So I would say, really get in the habit of scheduling things out and then really ensuring that you're staying consistent in what you're doing.
Yeah, I love it, and congratulations on writing your book. I'm so excited for you and can't wait to
Thank
learn more about the title and all of that and when it publishes. Definitely. So Monica, it's you've shared so much with us. Thank you for being vulnerable and opening up to sharing your story and how it is that you were able to get through the different phases of your life.
you.
More about your teeth steps to success
Mhm,
and the system that you use to assist your clients in
mhm,
really um figuring out how to take that first step in owning their life. You speak about the ownership over the destination of their
Yep.
lives, right? And how it is that you help them to gain whatever it is that they are desiring, whether that is starting a business, gaining the financial
Mhm.
stability, right, and ultimately living within their purpose.
Right. So what our first step is we go through what's called the goal audit. And we'll talk about that at the end, but any of your listeners are free to do a goal audit because they're listeners of Miss Raquel.
Yes.
And so we have them do the goal audit first, and it's just a form they fill out, it's a questionnaire, so I can get to know who they are as a person, and then really try to understand what it is that they're trying to achieve. And then from there, I basically build out a blueprint for them, which helps them stay focused on the goal, but also, it helps create a timeline because a lot of times what happens with Melissa is that she might have an idea of what she wants, but really not know how to get it. And so you get confused, you start to have imposter syndrome, you fumble around and not really understand what needs to happen next. What next steps do you need to hit? And so that's the first step. Once we get through that, we meet for about 30 minutes and talk about what next steps you can take for the upcoming week. And within the system, we have, one-on-one coaching. So Zoom calls as of right now, until we can go back together and do some
Yes.
live events. Uh, and then in the program, there's a couple of books that each person receives. Obviously this is a paid program. The goal audit is free to get you started. But we go through these books. Some of them, like Your Invisible Power. I don't know if you've read that, but it's a great book on how to manifest and really get in the right headspace.
Okay.
Um, because mindset is key when you're trying to get out of a situation where you just don't see any other way out.
Yes.
Um, and then, we have those one-on-ones. We do calls. I basically support them through the process. I mean, there's a bunch of, steps that they take in between each pillar, and I'm there to handhold. One of my biggest qualities I've heard is that I'm very motherly. Um, and it's funny because I actually did one of those, pop up quizzes where you quiz your family and your friends and you ask them,
Yes.
what are some of my best attributes? What are some of my best traits? Mom came up more than once in most of the
Wow.
responses. And so that was kind of shocking to me. They also said fearless and tenacity.
Mhm.
And so that combined, I just apply that motherly spirit I have towards my clients and really help Melissa understand this is why we're doing this. Here's how this will help you. And it's based on individual situations. Obviously, everyone's situation is not the same, but the
Right.
pillars are the same.
Right.
The mindset, the goal setting, the goal management, your daily vision, things like that are the pillars within the program that allow you to continue to go on, especially on those days when you feel like, what am I doing this for?
Yeah, absolutely. I love it. And tell us how we can get in contact with you, Melissa, and book a consultation call and so forth.
Mhm. Absolutely. So I can be found on all social media sites under Monica M. Petit. And then that goal audit, the free goal audit session, if you go to petitstepswithmonica.com/TGA, T as in Tom, G as in go, A as in Apple, then you can sign up for one there. And we do unlimited. So whoever signs up will get one.
Awesome, awesome. And is there anything that you practice on a daily basis or at times just to keep you grounded when you feel that you're a little bit off balance
Mm.
in terms of depending on what's going on in your day? What gets you back grounded?
That's a good question for my son. He'll tell you when I'm off balance.
Yeah.
I so if I don't run, I'm a runner. So I ran track in high school, so that was all about speed. But as I've become an adult, I jog. And
Mhm.
over the last, over quarantine, I kind of slowed down a little bit because my schedule was thrown off. But I was doing about 3 to 12 miles a week. Um,
Wow.
A
Amazing.
lot. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, but that keeps me grounded, and I feel like I connect with source when I'm running. A lot of people say they get that runner's high, but I get a spiritual high, and he and I talk, and I don't know why I keep saying he, I don't know if it's a he or a she, but we talk, and, in my head, I just say to myself, I am not my body. I am not my body because, we're all spiritual beings. We're just in these bodies temporarily. And so that pulls me through everything. And I also practice gratitude every morning. I wake up and before I even put my feet on the ground, I say thank you. Just thank you for giving me another day. Thank you for putting breath in my lungs. Um, and that starts my day off right. And then from there, the basics: make the bed, take the shower, and during the shower, do my I ams and my affirmations, and really start preparing my mind for the day I want to have.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah,
That's amazing. I love that, and I know that throughout this conversation here tonight, and for the audience watching this, whether it's on YouTube or on the different platforms, Spotify, iHeartRadio, iTunes, Google Play, or Google Podcasts, I definitely know that you will capture information that you can use right away to apply to your life. So for everyone on here, I definitely want you to go over and get in contact with Monica Petit. Definitely go on her website, which will be included in the show notes, and definitely reach out to her if you know that you're looking for change and you want to start taking ownership and taking back control of your life and your destiny. All right. So remember, guys, as always, be good to yourself. And Monica, thank you so much for being on here today.
thank you, Raquel. I appreciate you having me. This has been wonderful.
You're very welcome. All right,
Thank you.
everyone. Bye for now. Catch you in the next episode.
Thank you for listening. If you've loved this episode, let's stay in touch. Head over to raquelwalters.com and subscribe to my email list so that I can send you updates on new episodes, exclusive motivational nuggets, and insider knowledge that's only shared when you join our community. Please don't forget to subscribe to this podcast and leave a review, as I want to know your thoughts about every episode. Follow me on Instagram at Your Purpose and Business Podcast. And remember, your life is beautiful, and this is a part of your journey. So embrace it. Speak to you soon.